Hi again, I'm Joe Connolly. To tell you more about a story that we have been covering that I think is a real big story, and that is about the new growth outside of Manhattan since COVID. Producer Neil A. Carousso will join us as well, and talking with two people here who know a lot about this. Regina Myer is the president of the Downtown Brooklyn Partnership, and Dan Kaplan is senior partner at FX Collaborative Architects. Regina, number one, what is happening that you see that you like in downtown Brooklyn right now?
Well, I think what's really been great about downtown Brooklyn over the past few years is that it's evolved into a really fantastic, dynamic, mixed-use community. It used to be dominated by the courts, the Board of Education, and shopping on Fulton Street. And now it's just a lot more. I mean, it's still shopping on Fulton Street, but it's also shopping at City Point. It's also a lot of residential, and a lot of people are coming to downtown Brooklyn to live because it's so easy to get around. We have amazing mass transit. We have great access to parks like Brooklyn Bridge Park, the walk over the Brooklyn Bridge, of course. And people really want to be in the center of things, but they also want the amenities of living in Brooklyn, which means access to the great residential communities. So we've really grown as a mixed-use community, and we've also really seen a growth in tech and media coming to work here in downtown Brooklyn, as well as a really strong cultural district. So yeah, a lot's going on here.
Dan, I understand that FX Collaborative recently moved from Manhattan to Brooklyn. Why did you do that?
Hi, Joe. Great question. We're thrilled to be in downtown Brooklyn. We decided to move before the pandemic, and we were designing a building, One Willoughby Square. And the more we designed it and the more we got into it, the more perfect we would realize it would be, not only for many creative industries, but our own firm. And we talked to the developer, JMB, and we became one of the first tenants in the building and took 3 floors. So it was the opportunity to work and live in, if you will, in the building that we designed. And that was so important. And then, of course, it was the neighborhood. So many of our architects and professional staff and overall staff live very close to downtown Brooklyn. And so it really became, a very compelling argument for us to move. I will say what's really wonderful is how vital, the street life is in downtown Brooklyn, and how as we emerge from the pandemic. I mean, we moved into the space a year ago, and there's always been this great sense of street life and people on the street. And it's what Regina was saying. It's because there's a mix of uses. It's a 24/7, community. There's everything here. So it's really great.
Neil.
Joe, Dan, Regina, nice to see you both, and good to have you on the Small Business Spotlight. Let me ask Regina, what do you attribute this growth to, aside from the mixed use that is so obvious and the support of local businesses there because of hybrid work? What else do you find is the reason businesses are starting up in downtown Brooklyn?
I think it's a real confluence of things. Like I said earlier, it's about transportation. All of the major subway lines, except the L, come to downtown Brooklyn. So you can get here from anywhere. Also, the Long Island Railroad comes straight into downtown Brooklyn at Atlantic Center, and Atlantic Center and Atlantic Terminal have become vital locations with the development, of course, of Barclays, new retail like Sephora, Dave & Buster's, and Uniqlo. I mean, so we do have like a variety of different centers here in downtown Brooklyn. I also attribute the growth to the incredible commitment that the culturals and groups like the Brooklyn Academy of Music and Mark Morris have put so much energy into making downtown Brooklyn distinct from Manhattan. And that's pretty obvious. When people come here, they feel like it's urban and it's connected, but it's also different from Midtown Manhattan and Lower Manhattan. And I think that's really to our advantage. And we also have connectivity to the waterfront. You know, Dumbo, there was no Dumbo 15 years ago to live and work. And now that's a real place. And so proximity is really one of the things that people really like here in Brooklyn. They can get here, they can do things, and they can get anywhere.
Dan, I was looking at your website, and I can understand why the building you were designing looks so nice you decided to move into it yourselves. But the buildings that you design are so open and light and airy. I wondered when I looked at them, what's holding up these buildings? There's so much open space. Tell us about your design beliefs.
So, especially when it comes to office space, but also residential space and institutional space, everybody thirsts for and loves a connection to nature, to daylight, to greenery, to the changing of the sky, to the changing of the seasons. And this notion of a building that feels like it's connected to its greater environment is really what drives us and drives our design. And that takes into account, like what I just said, the natural environment, but also the urban environment, the context, so that a building in downtown Brooklyn feels like it could only be in downtown Brooklyn. And you don't see the same design replicated all over the city, all over the country, or all over the world.
This is just an amazing change for those of us who dreamed of working in Midtown Manhattan someday. I was just quoting on the radio somebody today, a recruiter who said, actually, that if you think about it, downtown Manhattan is crowded, it's anonymous, it wasn't that pleasant. And we're not here to talk about downtown Manhattan. We all need it. It fuels the engine. Let's all be clear about that. But there just seems to be an economic and a cultural shift away from the center borough.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say there's a few things going on here, Joe, just to your point, that are super interesting. We have companies like Gimlet Media, which are now part of the Spotify umbrella at 41 Flatbush. And podcasting and a lot of tech and media is really comfortable not being in the center of things and being in Brooklyn. And that's really been terrific to have companies with that kind of energy, who are that forward thinking. And frankly, I mean, that in the media business, podcasting and different ways of listening are here to stay, right? We all know that. So that's been terrific. The other thing is, I think, and I'm really building here off of what Dan just mentioned about open space, we really have a different sense of what a high density neighborhood can be. So for instance, we have a park under construction right outside of Dan's new office building called Abolitionist Place, which the city is building and will be coming online next summer. And so that's amazing that we can incorporate new open space with new development. Also, Brookfield is rebuilding the open space here at Metrotech. They've rebranded it, called Brooklyn Commons, and they're going to be getting that new open space underway as in addition to really re-energizing their buildings here at Brooklyn Commons in Metrotech. So those are the kind of things that are happening here that are really different from Manhattan. I think the combination with a great open space, really giving workers different opportunities to be outdoors, whether it be to eat lunch, hear music after work, simply meet up with a friend for coffee. That's a quality of life that you don't find on every block in Midtown.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And Dan, I want to go to you. Joe pointed out some of the beautiful designs that your firm has. I mean, that includes all of the city, not just downtown Brooklyn, the recent renovation, the Javits Center among it. Tell us about what you see as the future of New York City. As you put these buildings up, what do you see as the shaping of the city going to be post-pandemic?
I think our sort of generation's collective charge, if you will, from an urban design and architecture and sort of civic point of view, is to really reinvent the central business districts. I see downtown Brooklyn as somewhat of an emerging model of that, with all the aspects that Regina said in terms of an enhanced public realm, more greenery, more open space, better buildings for working, but also a mix of uses. And so I see that spirit getting infused into the central business districts of Manhattan and Queens and the Bronx. So, there's this concept that I really believe is extraordinarily strong. And it's called the 15-minute community. And that means anything that you care about, whether it's working, living, playing, learning, culture, civic infrastructure, green space, recreational, is all within 15 convenient minutes, healthcare, 15 convenient minutes from where you live. And this was always the model of Manhattan, but only for a very small group of people. I mean, when you think about Park Avenue in the 50s, and all those people would go up to Park Avenue in the 60s or 70s where they lived, and they had everything. But so this is a way to create that model, but for all, and for a much wider group of people. So this idea of a 15-minute polycentric New York is really, I think, where the future's at. And I think that's where we're all going to be rowing in that direction.
Could Manhattan be that? That's a big challenge. Could that apply to Manhattan theoretically, Dan?
Yes. I mean, well, first of all, the reports of the death of the office buildings are greatly exaggerated, right? So I don't believe that the office is going away. It's definitely change and changing, but there is, the pendulum always swings. I remember, after 9/11, there was this whole idea of like, well, we have to diversify or diffuse our footprint all over the country for security. And you had this idea of what was called corporate decapitation, where the heads were in New York, and then all the divisions were out in various places dispersed. And what happened was that was great, except for people started saying, well, that's good but I'm going to be in the center, right? And I'm not going to be in one of those satellites. And so there is this idea of enterprises needing to be close to each other and to have a culture, strongly established culture themselves. I see that in our office so strongly as we've come back to work, that it has given us a new energy and reinforced as we come back to the office, it's given us a new energy and reinforced our sense of culture. So that's not going away. So what we do need to do is make sure there's more office buildings in Manhattan that can do what this building does, and the other new buildings like around Hudson Yards and around the new ones emerging around Grand Central, which is like light, air, open space, greenery, connectivity. But then that answer, what do we do with the rest of it? There are certainly always going to be a need for large floor plate offices, not enormous ones, but there's going to be a need. But, the older office buildings that are now 50, 60, 70 years old they need to be repurposed and I think reinvented. And I think that therein lies this great opportunity. This is what happened to Lower Manhattan. It's gone through, and now it's becoming more and more and more of a mixed-use scenario. Last thing I want to say is it's so important in Manhattan, just like in downtown Brooklyn, and I think also should be planned for Long Island City, is a greatly enhanced public realm. We're looking at all sorts of plans for around Harold and Greeley Square, around the Empire Station. Others are looking at reventing Park Avenue. There's a plan afoot for reinvention of Fifth Avenue. Broadway, the Broadway medians that go from really Union Square all the way up to Times Square. One day that's going to become a green space. So investing in that area, I think, will yield great benefits in the future.
Neil, one more. Neil, one more for Regina.
Sure. And so, Regina, when you hear about what's happening in terms of these office buildings, mixed use, and some of the conversions that are going on, how do you then market to these businesses to start in your districts and grow there and hire people and bring people to the office that are going to then use other local businesses, the restaurants, the coffee shops, and go shopping, in downtown Brooklyn?
Yeah, I mean, we really want to see the continued growth of the mixed use neighborhood. And we think that this is a great place to work. And what we do to enhance that is work on our public realm. So we hired some of Dan's competitors, actually, some who are our colleagues, at WXY and Big to work on an entirely new public realm plan for downtown Brooklyn. And we are starting to roll that out and work really hard with the city to realize new improvements in the pedestrian landscape in downtown Brooklyn. And we've started those in a few key locations around Macy's on Fulton Street. And we hope to see those grow and be enhanced over the coming years. This summer, we're going to be rolling out some great new sidewalk improvements like you see in the Flatiron District and in Union Square. Right here in downtown Brooklyn, and we will be proceeding with those kind of plans for the next few years. So I totally agree. We have to bring the vitality of the street to everyone, and that's what people are really coming to downtown Brooklyn for, whether it be office or residential or shopping at City Point or going to a show at BAM. All of those pieces, really, we see them as all fitting together right here on the sidewalks and streetscape of downtown Brooklyn.
Do you think, Regina, that the sidewalk sheds will survive and we'll continue to have them, or no?
I think outdoor dining is here to stay. People love it. New Yorkers have marched with their feet and their pocketbooks and their idea of hanging out after work and having a drink. There's definitely a desire on the city's part, as you know, to make the rules a little bit fairer and to regularize certain experiences. But we are going to support outdoor dining as much as we can. We know that our neighborhood really has embraced it.
It's been great to talk to both of you, so much so that I'd like to have both of you back again sometime in the future.
Sure.
Because what you're really talking about, as I listen to it, is all of New York City.
Correct.
We really appreciate your thoughts and ideas, and we'll have you back. Thank you very much, Dan.
So
and
much
Regina.
fun.
So
Thank
much
you.
fun.